about 347,000 jobs. And then we had a company, we have energy in Ohio, natural gas. Want to buy any? No, we have natural gas. And there is a company from Thailand that's coming in called PTT. They're one of the largest chemical companies in Asia. So they're going to spend $100 million to investigate the building of what's called a cracker facility. And this is a facility that breaks gas down into its component parts. They are going to build potentially a facility that's going to cost $4.5 billion. It will take 4 years to build. So they wanted to know who could do it. Do you have the workforce that can do it? Guess who I sent down to see them? Labor unions, the building trades and the operating engineers. Guess what this company told me? Best workforce presentation we've ever seen, and we're coming to Ohio. Now, I don't want to have a war with anybody. And as I've told organized labor, if you disrupt and you cause problems with jobs, then we'll have to have a serious discussion. But right now, we have peace in the valley, and as long as we have peace, I'm a happy man. Okay?
Healthcare.
Healthcare.
There's so much emphasis on repealing Obamacare, but there's not enough emphasis on what would replace it.
Good point. And so let me say at the offset, we should repeal Obamacare because it's not doing the biggest thing, which is controlling costs. So what would I do? Basically, fundamentally, in a short way, I would empower the... You have a primary care doctor?
I am a primary care doctor.
Well, we don't know if he's worth squat as a primary care doctor. Is that your wife?
He's my primary care doctor.
I actually do urgent care.
What, did you get her in a weak moment? Okay, here's the situation. See, he is your primary care doctor. I got a primary care doctor that's sort of like him. He's very, very close to me. And we play golf together. His wife is, you know, we're just all friends, the family. So he's my primary care doctor, and I call him. In fact, he came on a trip with me to New Hampshire, and when the trip was over, he said, I'm exhausted. How do you do this? He will tell me what I need. He examines me, and his goal is to keep me healthy. He talks to me about exercise. He talks to me about how many glasses of wine I can have a day. He talks to me about vitamins. In fact, I'm going to play golf with him. Maybe on Sunday he's going to give me a flu shot. And he's going to take my blood pressure. He doesn't know that yet. And he does these things. That's the way primary care doctors ought to be. That's probably the way you are. So, to me, instead of you getting nothing, we should be incentivizing you to be able to guide people through the system, keep them healthy at lower prices, and you should be rewarded for it. So I believe we need to raise the status and the value and income level of our primary care doctors. And then I think it's your job, because you'll be rewarded through the market on this basis, of guiding people through the system based on what they need. And as you know, with a lot of people, they go to the hospital, they need 2 tests. How many do they get? 10, right? Okay, well, you should be in charge of that. You should be monitoring that, and when you save money, you should be rewarded for it. That's the system we're developing in the state, which I think should be developed nationally. Then I think on top of it, there's another way in which the market can work. Employers are looking to control healthcare costs, but they want to have their employees happy. So they are talking to insurance companies about keeping down the costs. And the natural competition that can occur out there with providers can deliver us lower prices. There's always going to be a challenge in the rural areas, right, where there's not the competition. But by and large in the country, you can have a much more competitive position. So now what we're doing, we are going to release all of the statistics on hospital readmissions, infection rates. We're going to become transparent on the entire healthcare system so we can see what's happening. And then there's another element of this that they're beginning to employ because insurance companies want to be hired, they want to keep the rates down, but yet they want employees happy. In Columbus, the Children's Hospital has created a protocol to keep children out of the hospital who have asthma. And the kids are safe. they're healthy, but they're not in the hospital. Hospital gets less revenue, the insurance company makes more money. They split the savings. So the parents are happy, the kid is happy, the insurance company didn't make quite as much, but they made money, and the hospital has got some revenue that they otherwise wouldn't have received. That's pretty simple, isn't it? Common sense? What do you think?
Well, I think controlling costs is key.
Exactly. And quality.
Yes.
Because what I don't want to do is have a system that I'm not comfortable with my family. I mean, if I'm not going to say, well, you have to take one thing, my family gets another. But that's where I think we should go, Doctor. And I think this is scalable, and I think if we let the market actually work, instead of having government try to regulate the market, I think it can work. And so that's the direction we're going to go.
If we decimate Planned Parenthood, would there
Planned
be a way?
Parenthood should be defunded, and the money for family planning ought to be shifted to other organizations. And we're not going to get that done with Obama as the president.
But
Okay?
where would it, I mean, to follow up on his question, what about health care for poor women?
Oh, well, that's where Medicaid comes in. I mean, that's, you know.
Yeah, at least here in our state, the Medicaid level, you have to be like dirt poor.
Well, then there's the opportunity, you know, and I would think ultimately is you want to have, look, if you give me control of Medicaid, which I would want to send to the states, but they have to use it for poor people, not for paving roads, you give me the flexibility, I can take some of that money from Medicaid that I'm currently getting and create an exchange in my state where people can get the kind of subsidy they need to be able to have health insurance. Look, we don't leave anybody behind in the state. You know how much heat I've taken for expanded Medicaid? I mean, Gordon Humphrey, who's here, has to defend me because I expanded Medicaid. Why did I do it? Because it makes more sense to have working poor women getting care than having to spend their time in the emergency room where they cost us all more money anyway, right? And I would rather have the mentally ill and the drug addicted getting on top on their feet and working, so instead of my having to pay $22,500 a year to put them in prison, I not only don't have them in prison, they're working and they're paying money. Okay, last one. Right here, sir.
We're told that a lot of medical care, admissions to hospitals and tests, physicians don't want. Perhaps a third of all expenditures. Physicians order these things to cover themselves. In case they make
Yeah, we definitely need tort reform. There's no question.
With so many lawyers in the legislature.
Well, we've done it in Ohio. We have tort reform. It should be state by state. If there's a way to, you know, look at this thing nationally, that's fine. But each of the states have to confront it. And you've got legislators here. Now, here's the thing. When you shift power out of Washington and put it in the hands of local people, then you've got to grab them. Because if you want to go to Washington and grab somebody, you can't even get in the building. That doesn't mean when we shift power here, everything's hunky-dory. But your legislature ought to be passing it. If they're not, put it on the ballot. You know, we fixed it in Ohio, and Ohio is like, look, this is a big-time state. We're the 7th largest state. We're diverse. We're complicated. You know, we did it because doctors were going crazy. Now, part of it is right when it comes to the issue of being sued, but part of it is because it just doesn't matter now, because somebody else is paying. You see what I'm saying? Insurance will pick it up. So if you need 2 tests and they give you 10, I don't really care. And that's where this doctor here has to be empowered to say that's nonsense, and then he should be rewarded for intervening in this situation. So, you know, the other thing I read, Doctor, giving all these tests doesn't necessarily lead to any better health care. In fact, some people argue it causes problems. What's your view on that?
Sometimes that's true.
Sometimes the over-testing makes us less healthy. Where did you go to medical school?
McGill in Canada.
Okay. Oh, are you Canadian?
Well, I was. I'm an American citizen.
Okay. Is that birthright citizenship, or is that... last word on immigration. So what I think we should do, guest worker program, finish the border. Nobody should just willy-nilly walk into this country. For the ones that are here, they're going to have to pay a fine. If they didn't violate the law, they can have legalization, not citizenship, legalization. build the border, no more excuses, no more people coming in, just coming over the wall, and that's what I would do. Okay, look, I hope that you got a sense of who I am, and maybe you'll help me. Ladies,
Absolutely.
you're going to help me? Nope. No way.
She's from Ohio.
You vote in Ohio?
No, I moved here a couple years ago.
Okay, what's the, from John Boehners, did you know him?
No, he went to my church.
Okay, good.
So, I just wanted to know your thoughts on education. As a mom of 5 kids, you know, the kids that we're educating now are the ones who are going to be solving all the problems we've been talking about today.
Look, we have very big, this is something, Gordon, you don't know. I'm very big school choice. If the school's failing, give them the chance to get the kids out of the school. But here's what we're doing in Ohio, and nobody knows about this yet. If you fail 3 years in a row, we have the right to put a CEO in charge of your school. No more nonsense. No more politics. This is going to affect the Youngstown schools. You know where Youngstown is. But it can affect any school in Ohio. We did this in Cleveland. It's not fixed yet, but we're moving in the right direction. The only thing that's preserved are benefits and salaries for teachers, but everything else is in the purview of the CEO who can turn a school district around. Let me say one other thing. This is fundamentally an issue at the state and the local level. Okay, presidents can use a bully pulpit, but it's not something that people in Washington ought to be doing. But education's very hard to change because there's a lot of entrenched interests. And I think the whole system ought to be made flexible. So let's take, for example, I have a daughter, and I don't know, she used to say she wanted to be, when she was like 5, she wanted to be a neonatologist. I'm like, Emma, a neonatologist, okay? So you know what I think, doctor? I think if Emma could come and work in your office for 2 or 3 hours during the week, she should get credit for graduation. And we're starting that program. You want to tap into people's enthusiasm, into their passions. We don't do that enough. So here's what we're going to do. We're all going to sit in a classroom. We all learn differently, but we're all going to have to learn the same way because that's just the way it's going to be. We need flexibility in education. We need choice in education. And we need to let people know what are the jobs? What is it you can do? You know, I got all these kids tell me they're in political science. I said, we know exactly what you can do. There's a bunch of shoe stores where you can sell shoes. Just kidding. That's a joke, political scientist. Even laughing. It's like you're in a trance back there, Jackie. Come on, you gotta make it smile. So, you know, and we got to have high standards. If you don't have high standards, what do you get? 40% of the kids in my state, and I'll bet here in New Hampshire, 40% graduate from high school and they have to immediately head into remedial classes in college because they didn't learn anything. It's ridiculous. By the way, we put a 3rd grade reading guarantee in, which ends social promotion. You can't go to the 4th grade unless you can learn to read in the 3rd grade. Okay? This is a really big deal. And they wanted to erode that. I said, oh, you want to repeal that? Oh, okay. And the teachers are saying, well, you know, how are we going to get paid for that? I said, well, look, if you're not teaching reading in the kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, what are you teaching? And then the legislature, well, maybe we need to repeal this. I said, you can repeal it. I have a thing called a veto. By the way, the governor of Ohio has the line item veto, which the President of the United States ought to have. And we ought to have a constitutional amendment that requires a federal balanced budget, because as Gordon will tell you, it will not happen consistently, because they're all tarred with the same stick. Spend and elect. Not when I'm president. See ya.
Like them? You're a Republican. Sorry, what'd you say?
I said he's different than a lot of others.
He is, he is. He definitely is.
And he seems to be able to think for himself. Listening as well.
And,
Thing is, then it goes to who is going to be in his cabinet.
I know.
That's the other
Who's he
thing.
going to surround
Okay?
himself with?
We don't need any more Chinese or role or any of those characters as far as I'm concerned.